All right, we are recording. This is week 1, class 1. It's what is it, May 8th, 2023. We are in business math. This is the class. This is one of the more difficult classes, although I don't think it's the most difficult class. It's this one, business communications and principles of management, are the ones that always give people issues. This is always a big one because when people hear they're going to have a math class, they immediately freak out without knowing anything else. And it is not that scary, and it'll be fine. Everybody in here will be fine. Mostly what it takes is you just have to do the work. Okay. I say this a lot, but you just have to do it. And people are like, what does that mean? You just have to sit down and do it. If you procrastinate and put it off and, don't ask questions, just try to, it's going to bite you. But if you get on it, stay caught up, ask questions, send emails, there's a way here to ask questions directly from the Engage page that I can answer. And I'll show you all that stuff. So it's going to be pretty great. Now, I'm going to share screen. Why is that happening? Stop sharing. Share screen. Screen 2. Okay, there we go. And just so people I can see, quick thumbs up if you can see the home screen with the book and everything. Awesome. Now, Kelly said, was it Kelly? No, Jamie said this is her first class with me. So that means everybody else has to sit through all the other stuff. If it wasn't your first class, I was going to skip some things, but hey, we'll be fine. This is the Canvas homepage. This is where everything's going to start. Okay. Now, we still use Cengage in the math class, but they use a different platform. It's not MindTap. It is called WebAssign. So that being said, pull this out. The way you get into it is going to be a little bit differently. I guess a long hour, guys. Follow the instructions below. Now, each one of these is a link except for the course key that's in red. You have to sign up. And there's a PDF file here. Good golly, come on. Oh, no, that's fine. It's not just you. It's the video and some other stuff I do at the first of class, Jamie, so you're fine. Don't worry about it at all. Okay, so here is, make this a little bit bigger. It's a PDF file just telling you how to get into a class. You're going to go WebAssign, and I believe that is a link. It says webassign.com. I believe that is actually, okay. There's a webassign.net. I believe it takes you to the same place. And let's just kind of follow the instructions. See if it'll let me. I think I've tried this before, and I can only get to work about 30% of the time. This is going to be your view. This is the student view. Okay, so we will go to webassign.com. And the next instruction is enrolling with class key. In our class key, you can just copy and paste it from here. And hit enroll, and that should automatically get you into the course. Okay. Now, the reason I think, who was it? It was Sydney who was a little confused. It says Bob Pinero, instructor. The reason it says that is because he was the one that actually created the class. And when he did that, he became the primary instructor, and I really can't take his name off of it. I'm in there as an instructor too. I go in there and adjust things and move things around because I'm actually the only one who actually teaches this class. But I'm not going to go recreate the whole thing just to take his name off of it because I am a lazy bum. Well, I mean, let's just be honest here. Okay, when you hit continue, for some reason, this website seems to be really slow tonight. We spend all our time just waiting on this. You're going to put in your email address and your password next. Make sure, I always tell people to use your email address and password you use for Canvas. Okay, no reason to get fancy with it. And then, and that's going to be create your account here, fill out all the information, and then you should be able to get to it. Let's see if it got us there yet. Okay. Now it's not doing like it's supposed to because I'm an instructor and it likes to be a pain in the butt. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in here. You saw the pictures of all the cool looking other college students like this, and they were like, hey, you can do this. You're awesome. Once you get into here, I will view this as a student, so it'll look like just what yours looks like. Okay, you're going to see all the assignments that is in here. You still have your discussions, which we'll talk about. I can make this bigger for you, Kelly, if that's what you need. Well, I forget, I've got a big 32-inch monitor over here to my right. So if my camera is here with my laptop, and I got my secondary monitor. So I forget that some people aren't, you know, they're on the smaller devices. And then this is going to tell you what the assignment is and when they're due. Chapter 1, homework and quiz are both due on Wednesday. And then you're going to have 4 more due on Sunday, which is chapter 2 and chapter 3 are going to be due on Sunday. So we're going to be covering 3 chapters a week. First one is whole numbers, second one's fractions, third one's decimals. Okay. All this stuff is in the book, but let's just go to the chapter 2, the fractions, because that's the one nobody likes to deal with, fractions. I should probably reset this. I think I've already done a bunch of them. Now, I'll make this a little smaller. There are 5 questions, and you may or may not have the same numbers I have here. Okay. Now, the thing I always tell people, if you can do fractions, you can do anything else in math. Once I figured fractions out, then I went through college algebra, college trig, business calculus, calc 1, calc 2, statics, linear algebra. All of it, I'm gonna say it was all easy, but once you get through fractions, it kind of opens up math for you. Fractions are like the basic thing that kind of puts it all in. So if you need help on this fraction stuff, I will set up, there's videos, there's other things here, and you can access me. We can do a Zoom meeting. You guys can come on the campus for anything. Is everybody local? I never know unless I look you up individually. Okay. Anybody living in like Montana, or I've had a few of those, and North Carolina? No? Okay, good. So here's the cool part. When you go to here, you can request an extension. All right, when you do that, when I go into it, it'll show me you request an extension, I'll give it to you. I try to check these first thing in the morning when I get to work, either late morning or early afternoon, kind of in between lunchtime, and then in the evening, I try to check these to make sure that if you request an extension or you request help, I can get the answer. So try to do it a little bit ahead of time if you think you're going to need an extension. That way you're not just sitting there sweating waiting for me to check it, because you know something may happen and I may not be able to check it that evening. I may have to wait till later or check it the next morning. So when I say I try to check it 3 times a day, sometimes it's twice, sometimes it's 5. You know, I do the best I can. Like tomorrow, I've got some meetings tomorrow night. So if I don't get to check it before I leave campus, I won't get to check it again until about 9 o'clock at night, you know, before I go to bed. So when you go in here, number 1, it's going to ask you identify this type of fraction. It's a proper fraction. Proper fraction means that the small numbers on top, the big numbers on bottom. Now, can anybody tell me? Okay, I guess I'm going to make it a little vague. Does anybody know what a fraction actually is? Do we have any sort of idea? Okay. At its very basic, a fraction is actually a division problem. Okay. So, does that make sense?
What?
It does. Okay. A fraction is actually a division problem. This right here, this line is actually a division sign. And what it's saying is if you were to write out 5 divided by 18, that means. And that's how you would plug it into a calculator. So I'll pull up a calculator. So this is 5 divided by 18. So that is the decimal equivalent of fraction 5/18. Okay. At its most basic level, that's what it is. It's also to show you a part of a whole. And so what else it's saying is that, and I'll go back to the old pie analogy that you learn in, you know, middle school and high school, is you cut a pie into 18 pieces. This top number tells us we're talking about 5 of those 18 pieces. Okay. So it also represents a ratio. I mean, it's just about everything. A proper fraction being a small number on top, small number on bottom. That means it's going to be smaller than 1. Okay. If the big number was on top and the small number was on bottom, it was going to be a number greater than 1, and that's called a proper fraction. Okay. Now, and this is stuff. Now, if you need help, first thing is go to your book. Holy gosh, why is it so low? And it will take you to the proper chapter here. Chapter 2, fractions. Take you there eventually. Okay. And it tells you what fractions are. It tells you about the pieces of the fraction, the numerator and denominator, what's on top and bottom. It tells you about how we describe them. Remember how I say how we cut our pie. Okay, we cut our pie up into 8 pieces. We pull 3 pieces out. There's 5 pieces left, so that's 5/8. All right, and then it gives you examples of a proper fraction, a mixed number, an improper fraction. And what I always tell people is go into the book and just do a quick read over it. All right, just look it over. So when you go into these assignments, it'll help you kind of know what you're looking at. Now, if you still don't get it and you're like, well, dang, okay. And this is on some of them because some of them have more, and we'll go through the next one here in a minute. Go to ask your teacher and say, I still don't understand right? And then you just send it and it'll show up. Okay. When I get it, when I go to check on your stuff, it'll pop up for me. I'll answer it and send you a message back. All right. So let's go to one down here. All right. So least common denominator. Once again, you can read it. And they also have a watch it function. If you hit the watch it button,
Finding prime numbers by inspection is a handy technique and it's often used. However, sometimes it becomes difficult to do it that way, and especially when we have multiple fractions or
and so
large
what you have now
denominators.
is a 4-minute 27 video on how to find the least common denominator. All right. So now you have a place to read it, you have a video to watch it, and you can go ahead and ask me again, right? Because this is problem specific. When you click on ask your teacher, you're going to ask me about that problem. It's going to tell me which chapter you're on, which problem you're on, and then I'll be able to go and answer your questions. Okay. So, and final thing, YouTube is wonderful. You can look it up there as well. I know that sounds kind of dumb, but that's where I learned how to rebuild the transmission, rebuild the carburetor on my motorcycle. Question, Kalia? I see you looking, you're like, no, you're fine, you're fine. Now, as we go through here, where was I? Okay. 1484, 711. All right, let's do, that's pretty easy to learn how to do. While we're here, there's a few rules I always tell people they need to know. And I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but I think we have the time for it. When adding and subtracting fractions, the one rule you need to know is you need to have a common denominator. Okay, always and forever. Right. So these, when you're adding up fractions, these bottom numbers have to be the same. Have to. Okay. You can't add them or subtract them without them being the same. Now, what we do is many times we're going to manipulate these numbers. We're not going to change the value. We're just going to manipulate them in a way where we can work with them. Okay. Kelly, you look like you're just about ready to choke me. You good? All right. So the first thing I ask myself is, what is my least common denominator? Which means, what do all three of these numbers have in common? Okay. And it's going to be 16. All right. So 1/16, we're good there. That's wonderful. We don't have to worry about it. Now, at this point, we have to turn that 8 into a 16. In order to do that, we multiply it times 2, right? Now, here's the other little secret. Whatever I do to that bottom number, I have to do the exact same thing to the numerator, the top number. Always, always, always. So if I multiply this times 2, then I have to multiply 3 times 2. So that becomes, that 3/8 turns into 6/16. Right? Remember, some of you guys remember that from high school? Same thing here. Stop. Stop. Same thing here with the 4. I need to turn that into a 16. So I'll multiply it times 4. So I have to do the same thing to the 1. 1 times 4 is 4. So this becomes 4/16. That becomes 2/16. That becomes 1/16. Now, the denominator follows its way through. So your answer is going to be something over 16. All right. Because you don't add the 3 denominators together. They just remain to be 16. But you do add the 3 top numbers together. So that's 4, 6, 10, 11. That's gonna be 11/16. All right. Now when I go to answer it, (11/16). Is that right? 4, 6, yeah, 11. Okay. And I'm gonna submit this answer. And look, boom, I got it right. Now, if you want to know where I got that line from, that was the line that's on your 10 key. If not, it'll be, gosh, I never use it anyplace else. It'll be where your question mark is at.
So I have a question. Like, what if you put in the wrong answer? Will you be able to go back and like put in the right answer?
Let's find out. $75, 130. I'm just making numbers up at this point. So as we do that, it's going to tell us it's wrong. And yes, you can go back and correct it. Okay. I believe, if I remember how it's been set up, I believe you have 3 shots at each question and then 3 shots at each assignment. All right. So, and let me see, what is this? Crate and barrel, ship 3 packages, weighing this many. What is the total weight? All right. So what did 5, 2, and 4 have in common? Was it 5? No. Is it 10? No. 15? No. 20. Okay. So we know our common denominator is going to be 20. So it's going to be 8/20, 10/20, and 15/20. And when we add all those together, we're going to get some numbers here that are, it's going to be bigger than that. And we're going to have to add them back into here. Once again, if you need help with that, we'll go through it. Let's look here. 8, 10, 10. What's 8 plus 10 plus 15? Anybody remember? 8, that's 25, 33. So 33/20. So that'll be 1 and 13/20. We'll do this. See if I can get the answer in my head. 45. What's that? Why am I having a hard time here? 45, 65, 70. 1 plus 88 is 9. 15, so 189, so 160. Let's see if I can get this right in my head. Oh, I got something wrong. But anyway, and I'll tell you what piece you got wrong here. We'll get another shot at it. You know, I could always do my calculator because no reason to. Oh, I know what I did wrong. We're 20, so 10. One more time. Did the math teacher get it? No, I still didn't get it. Well, damn it. I mean, darn it. So, and we're not writing it on paper, but I don't know what I did wrong. I'm trying to figure that out. It's really bugging me now. 21, 159. That's what I thought. No, I said 160 last time, didn't I? $260. All right, let's go 260. I really need to do this on paper or something. Hey, we finally got it right. Thank you, Andrew. You're awesome. And then we're just gonna, you can just keep going through them and going through them and going through them. Now, the other cool part is when you're multiplying fractions, you multiply the top number times the top number, the bottom number times the bottom number. It's as easy as that. Okay. There's a little bit different rule, and let's look. Once again, when you get into something like this, they have a watch it function. You get to, you're going to get a video that is going to be.
And here's a problem where we have two mixed numbers we wish to multiply together. We have 2 1/5 times 1 3/7. So let's convert each mixed number to an improper fraction.
Which
we have 11.
They'll show you how to do that in another video. In order to do that, you take the 5 times 2, add the 1. That gives you your 11 over your 5. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10 over 7.
11/5 times 10/7. We can divide 5 into this denominator, 5 into this numerator. So we're left with a 1 and a 2 in the numerator of the second fraction. Now let's multiply the resulting numerators and denominators. 2 times 11 is 22. 1 times 7 is 7. Of course, that's an improper fraction, and we'll rewrite it as a mixed number and get 3 1/7 as our final answer.
Okay. And then you're going to do the same thing using these different numbers, right? That's 4 times 7 is 28, 29 over 4, 11 over 3, and then that's it. And then they did a little cross multiplying there, and they're probably or cross canceling to go ahead and reduce it before you get to it. So, and then the other thing here is when you divide fractions, there's a rule here. Now, in order to turn any whole number into a fraction, you just put it over 1. So 5 becomes 5 over 1. That's all you have to do. So at this one, we 5 over 1 divided by 2 over 7. And my rule is, we call it I call it keep, change, flip. So 5 over 1 remains exactly how it is. You change the division to multiplication, and then you flip these two numbers. 2, 7 becomes 7 over 2. Then you do the multiplication problem. That's the basic rules for dividing. I didn't really mean to get into all that. What I really wanted to show you, the ask your teacher function, the read it function, the watch it function, talk about YouTube, all the other stuff. So I know there are probably 1,000 questions on that. Don't worry, you're going to be fine. You know what I'm looking at. And you're going to get more than one shot at these. So what I usually tell people, if you do it wrong the first time, you do it wrong the second time, you can't figure it out, go over here and hit the ask your teacher button. Okay. That way you don't run out of tries. And I will give you a fairly detailed explanation of what it should be. Many times I might use different numbers, but I'll make sure you know the process as we go along. I'm always available. We can do this by Zoom. I have a separate tablet that I log on to Zoom that I use as a whiteboard, and I use a pen. If you want to come onto campus, I have room in my office, and I have an entire classroom up the stairs with a big whiteboard. We can do whatever we need to do. All right. We will get you through this class. All right. So there is all that. Now, who was it that was? So Jamie, you've been in Canvas and all this other stuff before, right? So you know how to get through here. Does anybody here not know how to get into Canvas? I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. So we know where our assignments are located. Now, there is a lag here between WebAssign and Canvas. So when you do the assignments, you'll be able to see your grade in WebAssign, but you will not see them in Canvas. We've had issues with this in the past. So instead of me just telling it to go ahead and import everything over, I have to go in and I manually type in every single one of the grades in Canvas for everybody. So I do that the day after it's due. So when you do your stuff due on Wednesday, Thursday morning, I grade discussions and put grades into Canvas. Same thing with Monday after Sunday's work is done. Monday morning I come in, grade your discussions, and do Canvas. Now, being here gets you your classroom attendance and participation points. If for some reason you cannot show up, all right, you will see a link to the video and you do a 300-word summary and you can get those points. And then same thing with discussions. We don't have a discussion this week. We have discussions on week 2, 3, and 4. One of the reasons I don't give it to you on week 1 is because I just like to lighten the workload on week 1 a little bit. Let you guys get cranked up here. And nobody likes doing these discussions anyway. But this is the obligatory where I'm on my hands and knees begging, please, for the sake of the spaghetti god monster in the sky, do the discussions. They are 25% of your grade. If you don't do the discussions, best you can do is a C if you do everything else perfectly. You have to do the discussions. And I understand people get a little self-conscious. They don't like to write because other people are going to read them. They're going to respond to them. Don't think about it like that. Think about it as you're practicing a skill you need to have. And it's for 25% of your grade. Now, the way the discussions work, and break even, and okay, and just a little hint on week 4 break even analysis. I pretty much give you the answer. So if you're paying attention, don't just copy and paste, but I give you most of what you need in here. So week 4 discussion pretty much works itself. But you go in next week, you're going to have discussion. Do the original post by Wednesday. Part of it is we have a small class here, and we need to give people something to reply to. Now, by Wednesday, you should do 300 words in original post. Okay, this one is on taxes. Text a really good one. You get 20 points for the initial, 5 points for each reply. That's 30 points total because you need to do 2 of them. On Thursday, I come in and the first thing I do is grade discussions. If you haven't done anything, I'll put a big goose egg in there. That way, when you look at your grade, you're like, oh crap, I forgot to do my discussion. I got a 0 and look how my grade. So you go in there and do it, you'll be fine. And then on Sunday, or Monday when I come in, I grade the peer replies, and that will get in, so it'll update your grade for the entire week. So, and we've all done discussions before, right? On some of these classes, yeah, and we all hate them. Oh, just writing, reading, writing, math. Those are the 3 skills you just have to have, right? I always tell people, I'm looking at the time here, that if you can communicate effectively, not only verbally, but on paper, and you can do basic math, you're 10 steps ahead of the game for 80% of the people out there. Okay. A lot of people have not mastered those skills. So do your best here. Reading, writing, arithmetic, 3 R's. Right. So, and you'll be fine. Nobody's gonna judge your post and be like, gosh, she's so stupid. You know, that they're already so self-conscious about their own post, they're not even thinking about yours. So just consider that everybody's in the same boat. And anyone want to meet Tonks? Say hi, Tonks. Oh, no, nobody see her. There she is. Oh, come close. Say hi, Tonks. You're not showing up. Oh, no, anyway, there's a giant dog here. So just, yeah, that's all I can say. Don't put them off. Just get them done. You'll be fine. So here's your assignments now. Just to make sure we clarify, you've missed this. Here's week 1. There's your discussions. And here's all your assignments here. The problem is the way WebAssign has been a real mess is it's not like the other classes where you can click on it and then click and get into the course. You have to go to webassign.net and log in manually. You just have to. Sorry, I know it's an extra step. I'm trying to get that fixed. I've been working with Cengage. In fact, I was trying to work with the Cengage rep last week to get this fixed. But long story short, and this is my view, not a student view. Oh, and you'll notice here it says communication, there's a big bell. And so you guys see what I see. I set myself a question. I still don't understand what blah, 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 right? And that's what I see. I see problem. I see what you got right. I see what you got wrong. I see your message. And then I go in and I reply to it and I type in and I send it and I get a reply.
So do we go to WebAssign to do the math assignments and we go back to Cengage to do the discussions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, good question.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. The discussions are a product of Canvas. And I will let you know that a lot of these different colleges use Canvas and they all do discussions. My wife is in a bachelor's program right now and it looks exactly like ours and they give her discussions to do as well. So I think it's just common across the board. You just can't seem to get out of it. Can't seem to get out of it at all. All right, we have a few minutes. Oh, I forgot to change this. I will change this. Bob doesn't have a class anymore. It's just me. We tag teamed the last class because there was like 32 people in it. And when people start hitting ask your teacher, it got really, really labor intensive. I was doing nothing else for like an entire month except sitting here till bedtime going, that's me typing, by the way. So I'll fix this. And what's that?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to give us a number to get onto Zoom for the meetings? Because, or do we have to go there that's where I had to go, is right where you were at to click on to get into.
Did you not get any, did you get my email?
I might have. I probably erased it. So if you could send that to me again. Thank you.
Oh, Lord. It's not you, I promise. But yeah,
Yes,
I will
it is.
resend you the email. You can get to it from here. I also send an email. Once you have it,
Yes, I will
okay.
keep it.
Well, in your Zoom, if you go to join a meeting,
Mhm.
it should have this meeting saved in there, and there should be a
Okay.
drop down box as well. So that should be your another option. But I'll resend the email. You can get to it from here, and you should be able to get to it from Zoom when you hit join a meeting.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's always the same code.
Okay.
It's
As your
always
last
every
class?
as my last class, as the class
Okay.
before this, as the class
Okay.
after this. I never change the code. That way, it's just easier.
Well, then
on
I have the
everyone.
code. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, that's that. Now, this is going to be for, gosh, I cannot remember. Oh, Jamie. Jamie has not got to see my Jordan Peterson fetish. Is fetish the right word? That was uncomfortable to say. I'm a huge Jordan Peterson fanboy. And he has this really cool part of his lectures here is why it's so hard to sit down and get stuff done. It doesn't give you any answers on how to fix it, but it gives you some insight into why when you sit down to do a thing like homework, why it's so difficult. So always play this and kind of helps everybody out. I got the welcome email with no invite to Zoom email, Andrew. It should, okay, let's look here. Before we go any further, okay, so I sent this out on Sunday, and oh, I changed my email, didn't I? Okay. Well, you guys are right. Thank you, Andrew. I could have swore I had that in there. I don't remember taking it out. So I will make sure I send an email with that invite to everybody. So yeah. So Kelly was right. Andrew pointed out Kelly was right. And no, it's not because he was a guy I was listening to him, Kelly. Get that out of your head. I saw it. So let's watch this video that gets us about a little over 4 minutes, and I can stop being such a dork.
If you don't know, your attention, for example, is mediated by unconscious force.
Oh, and he's very Canadian. If you can't tell by the accent, he's like super Canadian. I think even at some point here, he says a boot, which is just hilarious.
And you know that perfectly well. And this is another Freudian observation. If you're sitting down to study, for example, your conscious intent is to study, but you know perfectly well that all sorts of distraction fantasies are going to enter the theater of your imagination non-stop and annoyingly, and there isn't really a lot you can do about that except maybe wait it out. So you'll be sitting there reading and your attention will flicker away. You'll think about, I don't know, maybe you want to watch Jane the Virgin on Netflix or something like that, or maybe it's time to have a peanut butter sandwich, or you should get the dust bunnies out from underneath the bed, or it's time to go outside and have a cigarette, or maybe it's time for a cup of coffee, or it's like all these subsystems in you that would like something aren't very happy just to sit there while you read this thing that you're actually bored by, and so they pop up and try to take control of your perceptions and your actions non-stop. Maybe you think, well, this is a stupid course anyways, why do I have to read this damn paper, and what am I doing in university, and what's the point of life? It's like you can really get going if you're trying to avoid doing your homework, and then you might think, well, what is it in you that's trying to avoid? Because after all, you took the damn course and you told yourself to sit down. Why don't you listen? Well, because you're a mess. That's basically why. You haven't got control over yourself at all. And no more than I have control over this laptop. Okay, so there's the memory function of the unconscious, and there's the dissolutive function. That's an interesting one. The unconscious contains habits, once voluntary, now automatized, and dissociated elements of the personality, which may lead a parasitic existence. That's an interesting one. I would relate that more to procedural memory. You know, so what you've done is practice certain habits, whatever they might be. Let's call them bad habits. And you like those things to get under control, but you can't. So maybe when you're speaking, for example, you use like and you know, and you say a lot. And you've practiced that, so you're really good at it. And you'd like to stop it, but you don't get to, because you've built that little machine right into your being, right? It's neurologically wired, and it's not under conscious control. And anything you practice becomes that. It becomes part of you, and that's another element of the unconscious, a different part. And then there's a creative part, which is that, well, you know, you're sitting around and maybe you're trying to write something, or maybe you want to produce a piece of art or a piece of music, or maybe you're just laying in bed dreaming, and you have all these weird ideas, and especially in dreams, it's like, where do those things come from? And even more strange, one of the things that's really weird about dreams, and almost impossibly weird, is that you're an observer in the dream. It's like a dream is something that happens to you. Well, you're dreaming it, theoretically, so how is it that you can be an observer? It's almost like you're watching a video game or a movie, but you're producing it, at least in principle, although the psychoanalysts would say, well, no, not exactly. Your ego isn't producing it, your unconscious is producing it. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. And of course, Jung would say, well, it's deeper than that. The collective unconscious might be producing it. It's, in some sense, it isn't you exactly, or it isn't the you that you think of when you think of you. And that's the ego from the Freudian perspective, the you that you identify with. That's the ego. And outside of that is the unconscious. The id, that's more the place of impulses. And you could think about those as the biological subsystems that can derail your thinking, right? And that govern things like hunger and sex and aggression and your basic instincts is another way of putting it. And it's a reasonable way of thinking about it, because these are subsystems that you share with animals. You share them certainly with mammals. You share most of them with reptiles. You share a lot of them with amphibians, and even going all the way down to crustaceans. There's commonality, for example, in the dominance hierarchy circuits. And so these are very, very old things. And the idea that you're in control of them is, well, you're not exactly in control of them. And I would say the less integrated you are, the less you're in control of them, and the more they're in control of you. And that can get really out of hand. You know, you can be like with people who have obsessive compulsive disorder, for example, which seems to be, I would say, the dissolutive elements in some sense of the unconscious, the way that it's portrayed here. Poor people with obsessive compulsive disorder, they can spend half their time doing things that they can't really control, and they have very strong impulses to do them, and it's very hard on them to block them. You know, they'll almost panic if those things are blocked. And then you have people with Tourette's syndrome, you know, that they'll be doing all sorts of weird dances and spouting off obscenities and imitating people without being able to control it, and sometimes a little bit of antipsychotic medication can dampen that down, but it's as if there are these autonomous semi-spirits inside of them that grip control over their behavior and make them do things. And you know, you find that to some degree in your own life, because maybe you've become very attracted to someone, even maybe you don't want to be attracted to the person, and then you find yourself, you know, texting them when you know perfectly well that you should be going to bed, and you know, you're in a grip of something. And you can't control it, and that's all part of the unconscious and all part of what Freud was studying.
So anyway, I just think that's a nice little thing to, you know, so we all know we're kind of a mess and we don't listen to ourselves, and you know, it's okay. Just do the best you can here, guys. We're all here for a purpose. I'm here to help. You guys are here to learn. You know, and this is a collaborative effort. This isn't just me, and this isn't just you. All jokes aside, this is a really difficult task you guys have taken on. And if it was easy, everybody would do it, which is kind of a cliche. But so my goal is for each one of you to be as successful as possible. And if you put up with my mistakes and I put up with yours, we'll get through this fairly unscathed. So any questions, concerns, anything like that that we can address before, and I'm gonna fix this right now while I'm asking, before we go any further? Nobody? No? Okay, well, if you come up with something, email me, shoot me a text, give me a call, whatever you need to do. And I will make sure I get to you as quickly as possible. So I will go ahead and stop the share. Make sure that's fixed. All of Bob's stuff is off there. All right. I am going to stop the recording. And if you need to stick around and